Hey, everybody, how you doing? Woo! Woo! Well, that's good. Welcome to PHLY Flyers, presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Certainly not an ordinary show today. For me, Bill Match, your director of fun and games, or Philly's #1 hockey sports writer, Charlie O'Connor. How you feeling, bud?
Pretty good. Pretty good, William.
Not
too shabby, actually.
It was a little rough. Thank God our show. Listen, I really miss our 1 o'clock start time. Mm-hmm. Not today.
Yeah.
I didn't get out of bed till around 1 o'clock today.
That's about the same.
And I don't think much of the Delaware Valley is very different. One of the all-time great nights here in the city of Philadelphia, all across the Delaware Valley. Eagles fans around the world celebrating a Super Bowl ass-kicking of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Completely accurate.
Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid. 40-22 doesn't even begin to describe. Like, 18 is not what separated that game. That was a 40-point victory in the Super Bowl for the Eagles. I have never seen anything quite like that, Charlie.
I'm going to remember it basically as 40-0.
Yes.
Because the 2 garbage time touchdowns don't count. And the 1 actual touchdown, like, one thing that was so funny about that game was how much they held the Eagles, despite the fact that they got wrecked.
That's
like Brandon Graham basically got tackled on that play.
Brandon Graham is like in a straitjacket on that play, and they held. And listen, there's holding on like every play, but
it was glaring.
They were blatantly holding on every play and were like completely unsuccessful at it. It did not help in the least. The way the defensive line dominated that game was unfreaking believable. Yeah, everyone at my house said the same. Like, this doesn't even count.
Yeah,
like this is like, congratulations.
Yeah, cool.
Like
we let them cheat.
Yeah,
sure.
Like,
cool.
we could not let Patrick Mahomes get shut out
of the Super Bowl.
In the Super Bowl. We had to let them cheat on this play. But that was just an absolutely amazing night for Philadelphia fans, Eagles fans around the city and the world, Charlie. We're going to talk some Flyers eventually.
Yeah, we'll get to them
today
at some point.
But honestly,
swing it back around to the orange and black.
I was just sitting there at like 5 this morning, laughing to myself about the absurdity of doing a Flyers show today, like, and how ridiculous that would be. So we're going to talk a lot of Super Bowl as well. I know we have out of town fans. I know we have hockey only fans. Like, I get it. Sorry. We do a show every day. Listen to another
Also,
one.
there's an element, too, where this is why we do this.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, we don't do this for the Eagles. But we do what we do. Talk about sports, talk about the Flyers, because this is what can happen.
Yes.
This is what everyone gets so excited about. And I don't know if when the Flyers are going to win another Stanley Cup. It's going to happen at some point, I imagine. But it does feel very far in the future. And these kinds of days remind you that, like, these things can happen. It is possible.
All right. So, Charlie, I want to go back to last night. And
Yes.
yeah, like, deep down, like, we're all just fans. And that's why we want to do this, because it was like, well, how can I do what I like to do? Oh, well, I can't play. I found that out real quick. So I
played hockey in high school.
And I found out that wasn't going anywhere real soon. But this is the closest thing, and we get to enjoy it today, Charlie. I do want to go back to last night and just, when did you know? Like, at what point? Because it was so different than like even in 04. Like, it comes down to the last drive. And the one they win in 2017, like, I didn't even know the clock expired. I thought the Patriots still had another play, and it was like, nah, it's over. We win.
That whole game was white knuckle.
And even last time against the Chiefs, like, last second field goal. This one, it's, I don't know, man. Let's watch Kendrick and, like, start partying. I don't know. Like, let's get the hell out of here. When did you know?
I think the Zach Bond interception. I think that was the moment, because, like, the Cooper DeJean pick 6 was fantastic, but it was only 17-0. And you're still thinking, you know, I've seen, you know, we watched the Patriots come back 28-3. I was thinking back to one of my favorite games of all time, one of my favorite football games of all time, the AFC Championship game in the mid-2000s between the Colts and the Patriots, where the Patriots dominated the first quarter and a half, and then the Colts came back and won it. It was an epic comeback. So I'm thinking about that in my head that, things are going great, but they could change quick. Bond gets that interception, in the red zone, and it's just like, nah, they can't do anything. They can't do anything.
And that's if they were going to stage the comeback, and listen, there's still a half of football, but it's near the end of the first half. They score there, okay, and then they maybe get a stop, and then Chiefs get the ball at halftime. Suddenly, it's 17-14. You're not blowing them out. This is a field goal game.
Yeah.
And that changed the entire dynamic of how this is going to go. The math of what they need, just even if the Eagles just kick a field goal, the math and amount of time, it's not really there for them. Yeah. That was absolutely it. I have to go back a little further, though. When John Hamm's voice cracked, they don't got it. They don't got it. They don't got it.
They just don't got it.
This isn't them. No. I probably would say coming out of the half when the Chiefs seemed to have made no adjustments.
They got one first down.
They got that first down.
One first down.
They get the first down, and then immediately the Eagles' D-line just goes right back to killing them.
Yeah.
And there was just, I don't know what nope, we don't have an answer for whatever you're doing. There are no answers. Now, I know Mahomes is great, but not today. They can't do it. And that was really the when I decided this is the whole time I'm like, why? It's 27-0. I'm like, why am I more worried than I was an hour ago? My friends are like, look, there's no time left for them to win this game.
They can't come back.
You can relax. I was I don't know if I can. I'm going to be totally honest with you. I don't know if I can. But it was just a freaking fantastic night. So we're going to do something a little different for the Super Bowl.
These videos, by the way, are videos I took.
Charlie took these videos last night.
Because I live in South Philly. Not going to tell you where in South Philly, but pretty deep in South Philly.
DM me. I'll give you his address.
And me and a few of my friends walked all the way up to City Hall and then back. It was great. Had to be done. The last time the Eagles won the Super Bowl, I lived in Fairmount, and we walked from Fairmount to the Kimmel Center and back. So it's kind of like I gotta see City Hall. Gotta take some pictures in front of City Hall. So these videos, not all of them. This one is not, I don't think, but a lot of them are my videos.
All right, Charlie. So the Flyers don't play a game for 2 weeks. So I don't want to go 2 weeks without doing a 3 stars. So we are going to do Charlie O'Connor's 3 stars Super Bowl edition. I wonder if there will be any Chiefs on his list. This is
third star Xavier Worthy. Great game. He got 100 yards and a touchdown.
What a catch for Xavier. I mean, absolutely amazing. Now, this is like the Flyers get shut out, and Charlie's like, guess what? There ain't going to be no Flyers. No. So it is time for Charlie O'Connor's 3 stars of the Super Bowl. Charlie, who was your third star last night?
Third star, I'm going to go with Cooper DeJean.
Okay.
Obviously the pick 6, but if you remember, I believe it was the very first Kansas City drive, and Cooper DeJean makes a great open field tackle, and it just was one of those moments of, if they're going to try this dink and dunk down the field, the Eagles are going to have their number. That they are going to need to do something else, because what they're doing, what they've done all season, it's not going to work. And then obviously Cooper DeJean on his birthday, pick 6,
just
goes right through him.
It is amazing to me, and we've talked, we'll put a Flyer spin on this, Matvei Michkov hitting at least some semblance of a rookie wall. Quinyon and Cooper were amazing all year. Mm-hmm. It is amazing to me, though, that they saved their absolute biggest plays for the NFC Championship, the Super Bowl. Quinyon couldn't buy a pick all year, and then he has them in back-to-back playoff games. You have Cooper, made great plays all year. First interception is Mahomes' pick 6 in the Super Bowl on his birthday. That's the craziest thing I've ever heard. And it's at the end of the year, no rookie wall for those guys. All right, Charlie, who was star number 2?
Star number 2, Jalen Hurts. I would say that this is something that was low-key hilarious for me in this game, was that very clearly Steve Spagnuolo came into this game Saquon Barkley's not going to beat us. And it's like midway through the third quarter, and he's still run blitzing on every play. And it's like, guys, you're down by 30. Like, what you're doing isn't working because your whole game plan was basically built on the concept of every analyst at ESPN saying that, well, Jalen Hurts can't beat you. Pretty sure he's beating you. So, like, maybe, I don't know, change something because what you're doing, it ain't working. But that being said, Jalen Hurts still had to go out there and beat them because it was clearly their plan that, well, we're not going to let Saquon do it, and we're going to bet that Jalen Hurts just is as bad as all the analysts think he is. And it turns out, nah, he's not. He's actually quite good.
And, like, they played this game 2 years ago. Eagles running backs in that game, under 2.7 yards a carry. If not for an ill-timed fumble, Jalen Hurts plays the greatest game of, like,
runs
how
away with
didn't
the
you
MVP.
see this coming?
Yeah.
Like, I realized, Saquon amazing, like, one of the great performances ever. But, like, I don't know, man. The guy can throw.
It also
he's pretty good.
It also
Pretty good.
seems like something clicked for him again in the NFC Championship game. Because that game was the Jalen Hurts from 2 seasons ago.
Yes.
And then this game was just an extension of that.
No, it's definitely, we hadn't seen, like, Hurts in 2 years ago prior to getting hurt. What was it, against the Bears? Like, he's front runner for MVP.
Yeah.
We hadn't really seen that guy consistently, and he just saving it for the 2 biggest games of the year. Why not?
Yeah.
All right, Charlie. Super Bowl first star. Who you got?
I'm going to go with the guy who, honestly, I probably would have given MVP to, Josh Sweat. And really, we're talking about the entire front four.
Yes.
But Josh Sweat had 2.5 sacks. He was incredible. He's also, I believe, if I remember correctly, I need to go back and rewatch. He's the guy who gets the pressure on Mahomes to force the ball and interception.
Yes.
By basically pushing.
Just driving him straight back.
Just drives right into him. It's more of a MVP is basically the front four. But it's Josh Sweat was the most consistently impactful of the front four that won the Eagles the game.
It's like the Giants Super Bowl, the first one in 07, where it's like, well, we can't give them all.
Yeah.
I guess we have to give it to Eli.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
And like Hurts, awesome game. But yeah, like the D-line is what decided that game handily. And that's an amazing first star there, Charlie. And before we go any further, have to take a quick second tell you about a couple of our sponsors, starting with Golden Nugget Jewelers. All right, everybody. Friday is a huge day here in the city of Philadelphia. Big parade day. Big day, maybe for some rings. But do not forget, it is also Valentine's Day. I know we are going to be wrapped up in our own thing. Gentlemen, do not forget Valentine's Day. And the best place to get the jewelry that you want to gift, it is at Golden Nugget Jewelers, because for the past 30 years, Golden Nugget Jewelers has operated out of the very same location at 8th and Chestnut, right here in the city of Philadelphia. Customers from all over go to Golden Nugget Jewelers to find the perfect engagement ring or wedding band. Staff is highly trained and dedicated to provide a personalized shopping experience. They have a vast selection of engagement rings, and can you think of a better way to celebrate Valentine's Day and popping the question on Broad Street at the parade? I mean, who doesn't dream of that growing up? You deserve an expert and the best price. Golden Nugget Jewelers, where Philly gets engaged. Visit goldennuggetjewelry.com to learn more. And while we're here, I got to tell you about our friends at Rothman Orthopedics. That's right, Rothman Orthopedics. As I scroll and try not to, there we go. Do you have aching joints? Do you have cramping hands? Is your back out of whack? Rothman's got you, because at Rothman Orthopedics, they've been practicing specialized care, and it's been their passion for over 50 years. Their mission, it's high quality, compassionate, and affordable care rooted in research leading to new treatments and better outcomes. Each Rothman doc is laser focused on their specialty: hip, knee, spine, you name it. They have a team for each body part right in your backyard, so you can get back to your specialty, because they're Rothman Orthopedics and they're specializing in orthopedics and you. Visit rothmanortho.com/PHLY to learn more and make an appointment today.
You know what? This is something I thought about a lot today about this game and about why I'm obviously thrilled because the Eagles won and I'm an Eagles fan and I'm from Philadelphia. But I talk about a fair amount on this show about the fact that I am of the belief that like the world is unfair and random stuff happens and you can't depend upon justice, making everything right. But I really, really wish the world was just and fair. So I root for what I consider to be fair and just outcomes because it makes me feel, a little bit less cynical. The entire lead up to this game, any objective analysis of the two teams was going to bring you to the realization that the Eagles are better in basically every single way, with the exception of quarterback.
Yes.
The Eagles were blatantly the better constructed, deeper, more talented team. And the only reason why so many people were picking against them was because, well, it's the Chiefs. They just win. And watching the Chiefs this year be as underwhelming as they were and continue to get rewarded with just let's stop calling it they know how to win, they're clutch. No, they got freaking lucky.
Yes.
Like 8 times. And it was just every single time they flipped the coin, it came up as they weren't special. They weren't, the most clutch team. They know how to get it done. No, they got friggin' lucky a lot. And if they had won this game by, again, getting freaking lucky, it would have just been so frustrating that yup, world's still unfair. No, this was the most fair outcome possible. A team that all season was the luckiest bunch of I can't use the words I want to use because it was so infuriating watching them just fall ass backwards into wins. And for them to get their comeuppance in this embarrassing of a fashion against a team that was so obviously better than them, it makes you feel like, maybe fairness can happen in sports sometimes.
That's a lot of people probably know. I used to work, I was a producer. I did 9 different things for a gambling show, You Better You Bet. And the host of that show, who I love, Nick Costos, buddy of mine. But when the championship games end 2 weeks ago and the line is -1.5 Chiefs, I just text him. I go, I'm paying my mortgage on this, bud. And he just, and he is a good, smart gambler. Listen, he's a Giants fan. Maybe he was just busting my chops, but he goes, yeah, good luck with that. They're going to lose. And I was like, buddy, I don't know how you're coming to that conclusion. I really, all week I was saying Birds by 17 and people thought I was in no way are they better than the Eagles.
No.
I don't see
did you watch the Chiefs this year? Yeah, they were winning in the most lucky fashion every single week. They weren't good.
I think a lot of people didn't believe that the Eagles defense was as good as it played all year. They're depending on some rookies and is Zach Bond actually an all-pro? Who this guy, when he was named to the Pro Bowl, he was Howie is congratulations, man. Zach Bond asked you didn't see this coming, did you? You did not think this is what you were getting at all. Yeah. And Howie was like, no. No, not really. No, he said that at the Kelsey show, I think. He was like, no, I honestly didn't. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, it's the same.
I don't think anyone actually
it's the same thing with Tom Brady. If we would have known Tom Brady was going to be the best quarterback of all time, we'd have taken him in the first round.
Yeah. It was freaking incredible to just see anyone oh yeah, man, Chiefs hat. Why? There's one of the all-time great sports quotes. Aura, that's just a dancer at a club, man. Kurt Schilling about the Yankees, Aura and all. No, it's not real. Yeah. If you fear it, okay, but the Eagles clearly didn't. Yeah. They clearly had absolutely no oh well, we gotta respect the Chiefs. No, you don't. You just go beat them up you beat up everybody else. And now they dropped 95 points in 2 trophy games.
Well, there were multiple writers before the game. I know Zach Berman, our very own Zach Berman, who's done such a good job covering this team, especially over the last couple of weeks. He's just been killing it. It's still down there, I would assume. But I think Jimmy Kempski tweeted it out as well before the game that they basically both said being around this team the last 2 weeks, they're not acting like underdogs. They are basically just walking around yeah, we're going to kick the crap out of them. We're the better team, and all we need to do is go out there and be the better team, and we're going to win, and it ain't going to be close. And they were right.
Yeah, it wasn't close. And that is honestly why I think we can say now that the Philadelphia Eagles are the gold standard organization. And if you want to celebrate, if you want to celebrate this championship, do it with some of our gold standard collection merch. You can get it right now on the website. Go to allphly.com, click that merch tab, and we have so many great designs. I love that World Effing Champs shirt. I love the birds with the 2 Lombardi trophies. I think that's so clean. It's good. You just have the nice, simple world champions with the years that they won the Super Bowls. It's a Philly thing, pretty cool too, with the pair of Lombardi trophies and that one. I like all these. I may have ordered a couple last night. Like, didn't even. I was watching the post game.
Did you use your employee discount?
I did.
At least?
Yeah.
Okay.
I texted Vince. I was about to do it. I was like, "Wait, no, we get a discount." I was like, "Vince, what the hell's our discount code?" But I did. All the guys on the post game last night were wearing the World Effing Champ shirts. I was like, "Well, I need one of those right now," and I got the birds one as well with the 2 Lombardis. So I'm doing my part. Everybody, you should do yours. Just celebrate. This is, I mean, it's stuff that you can wear forever, clearly. Like, 7 years later, you can break it back out.
It's faded, but it's holding up.
It's honestly, this might be the nicest thing Fanatics ever made. I can't believe this thing still exists, quite honestly. But you can get some PHLY Champions merch, the Gold Standard Collection. Check it out on our website store. All right, Charlie. Is this the best Philadelphia championship team ever? To me, it comes down to the Bullies and this team. The Bullies won back-to-back.
Yeah.
Now, like, they beat the Sabres in there. But the first one, they beat Bobby Orr.
Yeah, they beat the Bruins.
Like, that team, they win 2 in a row. They go to 3 straight. Like, it's hard to weigh what that means versus this team just romped a dynasty. Like, if they go on and win the next one, the Eagles, like, yes, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, now we're in dynasty talk of our own. But for a single championship, man, they dropped 95 points in both trophy games. Like, it's hard to say they're not.
I still think I would go with the Flyers because, number one, back-to-back. Number two, they were the villains.
Yeah.
They had
hate this.
Everyone wanted to beat the Flyers because everyone in the NHL hated them. And they just went out there with the target on their back the second time and just did it all over again, except in even more impressive fashion. I think it's still them. I do agree, though, if the Eagles were to go out next year and win it again, then yeah, they probably surpass the Flyers, the 75 Flyers. But for now, I think it's still the Bullies. I do. But one thing I would say that you can compare the two teams is that in both cases, the team, like, they broke the paradigm. Like, the Bullies tried to do it a different way. And they had everybody being like, no, you can't do it that way. You can. And then, no, we did, and we can. The Eagles, same way. Like, how many times were you hearing people, oh, well, you can't do it with a running offense. You can't do it with that quarterback not making the big plays and things like that. The Eagles have created a new roadmap, a new way to do it. And I think that's very comparable to the Flyers in that the Flyers of the mid-'70s did it a different way. They're like, no, we don't need to do it the way that everybody else does it. We'll do it our way, and we'll win anyway.
Yeah, it's I guess I have to go with a team that wins 2 in a row, but this one, it just feels so special that, like, they lose a couple of years ago, and like Jalen Hurts, the first quarterback ever to lose and come back and win in like the second time around.
I was blown away when I heard that. I was someone had to have done it.
Lose the first one and then come back and win. Like, no one, like, that's insane that nobody's done that before. And I will say, I kind of hate that we're the good guys. Like, beating Brady and then beating Mahomes. It's like everyone's tired of these dudes. We want something new. No. No one likes this, and I love it. It's not that I don't care. I love that no one likes this.
You relish it.
And now people are like, yeah, go back. No. I had a Cowboys fan DM me the other day. He was like, this one time only, go Birds. I'm like, no, you don't get to enjoy this. Yeah. You don't get to enjoy this. You'd be mad.
I think another reason, too, why I still would put the Flyers above this Eagles, and, like, I don't want to diminish what the Eagles
do. Oh, my God. No.
Incredible
team.
This was
ridiculous.
almost certainly, and I have to go back through, but I can't imagine anything would beat it. Like almost certainly the most impressive championship performance in Philadelphia history. One of the reasons why I still think I put the Flyers ahead is because I think the Chiefs stink. Like I'm serious.
That wasn't
yes,
their record is incredible,
but I don't think they were that good. Like I think the Eagles would have won regardless, but I think if they would have played the Bills, I think it would have been closer.
I don't think
I think they win by maybe a touchdown or two, and it's relatively close all the way through. So like I don't think you can look at this game and say they are head and shoulders better than any team in football. I think they are head and shoulders better than the Chiefs, and the Chiefs kind of lucked their way into this, and then the Eagles just smacked them down, and it was extremely satisfying to watch. But I don't necessarily think that like this shows that like there's the Eagles and everybody else. It's just the Chiefs stunk.
Yeah, and especially, I mean, they just didn't have it last night. And I do not think if it's the Bills or even the Ravens, I don't think they smashed the Bills or Ravens like that last night. But those teams didn't get there.
They didn't get there.
Like, they didn't get there, so too bad about that. But, yeah, that Chiefs, like, their record was awesome. And they do have Mahomes and they do have Andy. But, like, they weren't as good as previous Chiefs teams.
No,
like they were not. That was
weren't.
nowhere close to the Chiefs team that beat them 2 years ago. Like
I'm not even gonna give them the satisfaction of calling it devil magic. It was luck, and their and their luck ran out. And God, it feels good.
Charlie, I want this. This is again the Flyers show.
Yes,
I want this for us. How do we go? Because the Eagles were not always the, like, I know even going back to, like, now we can say gold standard, but even going back to that, like, they were laying the foundation for what they would become. Mm-hmm. Like, the early Lurie years, then he hires Andy Reid and him and Joe Banner, and building that up, that led to this eventually. Are we maybe in that stage? Like, is it 1999 for the Flyers at least? Like, is michkov, we just drafted McNabb, and that's gonna start it? Can you say that maybe we're there at least?
But even then, it took, what, 18 years
after
that?
I know. Maybe let's just, like, fast forward it a little. Like, let's say they don't lose in, 08. Like, maybe it only takes to 08 to get to one for, like, they beat the Cardinals there, and then it doesn't take the 18. But, like, at least setting for the organization to no longer be the S show it's been. Yeah. Like, they are so far away from being the Eagles. Like, maybe they're laying the groundwork to eventually be this for us, for our Flyers fans out there who maybe aren't celebrating the same as we are because we're also just Philadelphia fans.
Yeah. I don't know. I think getting michkov is huge, and it could be setting them on the path because it's like the equivalent of, like, you drafted your quarterback.
Yeah.
The Flyers have to have their, what they really hope and what I believe is their top of the lineup guy. And I also legitimately love the mentality that he has, because I think that over time, as he, gets older and gains more and more respect in that room, that he could become like the Nathan McKinnon of that team, where he's just a lunatic and, like, works himself to the bone and then basically demands that everyone else does the same. And honestly, you kind of need a lunatic, especially in hockey. You need a Crosby, you need a McKinnon, you need a guy who's just like, nah, we're just going to outwork everybody. And, like, yeah, it might be a little miserable, but it's not going to be miserable when we're getting parades. So I think with michkov, they have a guy who very much looks like he could be that. The big difference in my mind, and I'm not saying they're not, I'm just saying I don't know, is that the Eagles, under Jeffrey Lurie, starting with Andy Reid and then moving into the PHLY era, have been managed extremely well. And I am not...
There have been missteps, but overall, the plan works.
Yes. I am not yet ready to express that kind of confidence in Danny Briere and Keith Jones' ability to create, like, the gold standard of organizations. They run things so well there. And I'm not yet ready to say that the Flyers do. They might be building that, maybe, because, in 1999, 2000, we didn't know what they were constructing there. But I'm just not yet ready to say that these guys are them.
I want it so bad. And it's so hard to do. Like, it is so, there are opportunities to create it and you don't even know what they are at the time, and then they slip. I just want it for this team because
I want it for the fans.
Yeah,
I really do.
It's been so long.
Yeah.
Like, we're talking about greatest champion in this city ever. Charlie, we're talking about a team that won it 25 years before we were born, or whatever. 13, I don't know. I'm terrible at math.
14 for
50,
me.
yeah, whatever it is. It was well before, like, we were even free. Like, my parents were in high school. You know, like, it's ridiculous how long it has been for the Flyers, and we freaking deserve it. We freaking deserve to feel this for more than our football team. We deserve it for the hockey team because this is a loyal freaking fan base. Yeah. 50 years is a long time to wait. And I'm hoping they're able to get there, Charlie. And with that, I think it's time for our Tankathon spin. Hey, that is right, to bring it all the way back around. Well, this is where we are in terms of the hockey conversation, fam. The Flyers are still sitting in that 6th spot in lottery odds. They are actually tied with the Penguins in points percentage, but Pittsburgh has one more regulation win in the same number of games played. So they're at the 7th spot. And just quick aside, is it crazy to you? And like, the disparity isn't as big as it was leading up to this. They actually evened it out some, but most teams are between 55 and 57 games played. There's LA at 53. Like,
that's weird.
Buffalo is one of the teams at 54, and they started the season a week early. Going over. It was them and the Devils, right? That they played overseas while the preseason was still going on, which was kind of funny. But like Buffalo, Anaheim, Nashville at 54, it just annoys me that we had this big condensed schedule and made such a big deal out of getting these games in before the Four Nations break. And they're still uneven in games. It just drives me nuts. But anyway, Flyers are in the 6th spot in terms of lottery odds right now. I did one sim earlier, and I tweeted it out. I won.
You won.
Flyers got to number 1.
I love how you're saying
I won.
I won.
I won.
Personally, you won.
I'll see your Super Bowl and raise it a NHL draft lottery victory. All right, Brenna, spin that wheel. And who do we have? They dropped to 7. They actually drop a spot. So that is
Boston
not a great...
jumped up to 3. No, that would stink.
That is not a great outcome for the Flyers, dropping from 6 to 7. But hey, that's why we do this every single day.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, maybe the results will be a little bit different. All right, we are halfway through the show, Chuck. So I think it's time to get to some actual like Flyers talk here. They're in the Four Nations break. They don't play again until, what is it, the 22nd, I believe? Saturday?
Yeah, it's Saturday afternoon game against the Oilers.
Yeah. And then the Carnival is the 23rd, and we're going to be in the dunk tank again, so come on out to that. But, so they're off for 2 weeks. I love it. No post games for 2 weeks. Honestly, it's great. But there's some little bit of news. We heard the other day, like, Risto didn't play in the final game leading up to the break, and he was going to be like a game time decision. Seems like they made the decision a little earlier. Like, all right, you're whatever, you know, just take the day off, Risto. But that being like, all right, I don't think he plays till Thursday in the tournament, so he should be good to go. And now suddenly, no, Risto's out. Risto out of Four Nations. It's a little surprising.
It was surprising. But I have to believe that a lot of this comes down to the fact that I don't get the sense Finland and Sweden, particularly Finland, is really taking this tournament all that seriously. I think we talked about this, Bill and I did before the show. I get the sense that the Canadian players and the U.S. players are taking this tournament very seriously. The U.S. wants to show that they finally surpassed Canada. Canada wants to show that, you're still the little brother in hockey. We still run this game. The Finns and Swedes, I get the sense that the players, the individual guys, it's more for them about doing their national team a solid so they make sure they get put on the Olympic team. Like, that's what they care about. And perhaps Finland basically just told Risto, like, don't worry, man. You don't have to gut it out here. You can sit out this tournament. You're still going to be on the Olympic team. It's fine. if I had to guess, I think that probably plays into it because I don't think Risto is that banged up. I'm not concerned about this hurting the opportunity for them to trade him at the deadline. Obviously, he's been in rumors. The Flyers are open that we're listening on Ristolainen. I don't think this is concerning in that sense. We talked to Risto on Saturday, and he basically straight up said, yeah, I'm very relieved it's not that serious. I'll be good. It's fine. I don't think he's straight up lying. I just think that this just doesn't really matter that much. It matters, I think, to the U.S. and the Canadian players a lot more than it does to the European guys.
Yeah, and like we said, 2 months ago, I don't think anybody believed Travis Konechny, Olympian, was a thing that could happen. And now he's got a real opportunity here. He and Travis Sanheim have a real opportunity to put themselves on the map for the Olympics next year. Rasmus Ristolainen is in all likelihood on that team. You know, like it's just it's not Canada. Like there's only so many guys. He's one of them. It's with Canada, they can take literally anybody. Yeah. So that's the way it goes. This kind of works out for the Flyers, though.
It does.
Because this was a...
I mean, you joked concern about it, or maybe even not even joked about it. You were just like, oh, God, he's definitely going to get hurt at this tournament. They're not going to be able to trade him. Well, now he can. Yeah. And I guess if you want to worry that secretly this injury is super serious, then you can worry. But I really don't think it is. And in reality, this is probably a good thing for the Flyers in that now they don't have to spend the entire tournament, white-knuckling their way through it, hoping to God that Ristolainen doesn't get hurt.
That is one of the players that could be traded, potentially, Rasmus Ristolainen. I like that Danny Briere has the leverage of we don't have to. Yeah. With he and the guy we're about to talk about, Scott Laughton, like that's the best leverage you can have in a negotiation is not having to do something.
We don't need to
End of the day, they have term. I could trade them in the offseason. I could trade them anytime next year. Like Risto has several more years. It's not a necessity. And I'm looking forward to that, seeing if Danny Briere can squeeze this for all it's worth and kick this rebuild into high gear. Because, again, watching that Super Bowl, I am overjoyed, but I am also jealous that our Eagles beat got to do that post-game last night. I want to do one of those so bad. So, Danny, come on, help us out here. But I'm going to get to Scott Laughton now. Okay.
Major topic of conversation this weekend online, huh?
Seems like he's definitely going to be traded, Charlie. Is it already done?
That seemed like what everyone on Twitter convinced themselves of on Saturday afternoon, that it was a foregone conclusion that Scott Laughton was getting moved because Anthony DeMarco tweeted out one thing. This is not me crapping on Anthony DeMarco. He has sources. He's broken things in the past. Yeah. But it wasn't like DeMarco was saying,
trade imminent.
He's getting moved today. But for whatever reason,
everyone took it that way.
The entire online contingent of Flyers fans just started acting like he was getting moved in like an hour. It was very odd.
It was. And teams have, and like the tweet was... What we know, like, yes, teams are calling about Scott Laughton. We know teams have been interested in Scott Laughton, and maybe with the break coming, like, GMs are kind of kicking this into high gear. When they come back, there's going to be 6 games before the deadline. Flyers have 6 games. Other teams could have none. Who the hell knows with this schedule? Fair. But, like, in between the end of the tournament and the March 7th trade deadline, Flyers play 6 games. It's a short amount of time to like come back and get some work done. GMs are going to be working over this break, and I'm sure, especially leading into it, it's like, hey, we would like to get something done so we can come out of the break and maybe have our guy for those 6 games well before the deadline. And also, as we're learning with Kuzmenko and Peltier, if there's paperwork that needs to be done, we would like to get a head start on that, perhaps.
Was it Elliot Friedman, though, who said that even though there isn't a trade freeze during this, that the NHL is going to kind of be like, hey, don't make trades that'll overshadow the fact that like we're trying to make this tournament into a thing?
Yeah, that came up on 32 Thoughts today. And the one, it was Bukauskas who was like, but also... Like, Ullmark got traded Game 7 of the NHL Stanley Cup Final.
True.
Like, so...
Not wrong.
GMs are going to want to do their job. You know, like, yeah, this tournament, that's going on and all. But also, I am trying to win a Stanley Cup, or I am trying to rebuild a team to one day win. Like, I have to still do my job. I do think GMs are going to want to maybe take a little break. It's a long season.
There's also an element too, and I don't know if everybody gets this, but you'll find out about it next week, obviously. Well, you'll find out about it now because I'm going to explain it. They go back to practice on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So like the tournament ends, and then even though there aren't games yet, like I will be covering practice again starting Wednesday. It's not like it pops up. Their next game is until Saturday, but that doesn't mean they're not going to be at the facility. My guess is that if a trade were to happen, it would probably happen then, like while they're practicing, but not yet playing. I'm skeptical that there's going to be any big moves during the actual tournament, but I guess you never know. The Laughton stuff is just fascinating to me. It really is. Not because I think it's impossible that he gets traded. I think he could. I think the Flyers are certainly listening. I think they are continuing to hold drive a very hard bargain. They're basically saying, hey, you want him, you're going to have to pay up because we really like him and we think he has value to the rebuild, even if he's not going to probably be on the next great Flyers team. He can help us develop the guys who will be key parts of that next great Flyers team. They believe that. You can agree or disagree. They believe that, and that will drive the fact that they're not just going to dump him for a third-round pick just to say they traded Scott Laughton. That said, I do find it very weird that a lot of online fans have kind of seemingly convinced themselves that unless the Flyers trade Scott Laughton, they're not serious about the rebuild. It seems like Laughton has turned, through no fault of his own really, has turned into like this lightning rod of the fact that Scott Laughton is on this team is a disgrace, still on this team is a disgrace, and it won't stop being a disgrace until he is traded. And it's very weird to me. I made the comparison in my article to Michael Raffl, where Michael Raffl was a perfectly useful player who by the end of his time with the Flyers got turned into something of a touchstone for people who were just like, your very presence annoys me because of what you signify. And it seems like Laughton is becoming that, not for the fan base as a whole, but for the online portion of the fan base, the Twitter portion of the fan base. It's just weird. I just find it odd.
It's just that the organization values him more than his on-ice production. Like, that's what it comes down to, is that because, and it's funny because, like, I feel as if the people who hate Scott Laughton's presence here are the same ones who are like, it's not all about scoring like goal. You need heart and you need this and that and leadership. And then it's like, well, we value that in this guy. It's like, God, you got to get rid of him. And like, listen, you can, and Steve and I talked about this. Like, I can buy that 2 years ago when we heard the idea of maybe there was a first round pick offered for Scott Laughton at some point. They went, whatever we're going to get with the 24th pick or whatever is not as valuable as what we want Scott Laughton to do for this team on and off the ice as we go into this endeavor of rebuilding. Like, the locker room is in disarray. Like, Danny Briere said that. It's one of the reasons maybe they didn't want to bring Cutter Gauthier in right away. It was because things were going real poorly, and they didn't want to subject him to that. And it's, all right, we need Laughton to kind of help us get this culture. And that word is just such a, like, it's also just such a, like, hot button. Like, it makes people, what culture? They never win. It's like, well,
it does make people's blood boil.
Yes,
it does.
But they want, and you can make that case to me that they needed Scott Laughton more then. And now maybe it's starting to get to the point where you actually can part with him. And I think people have just wanted this for so long. Like, it's been so long. It's been 3 years of Scott Laughton getting traded rumors. And the idea that first round pick was involved, like, okay, you have to do this. And I honestly agree. I do think at some point you need to trade Scott Laughton, but I like that they're holding to their price because you don't want to be labeled the GM who will eventually give in. Like, if you wait him out, he's going to give in. Don't. Like, have your price and make teams meet it.
And also, if they trade Scott Laughton because they get a first-round pick or because they get a young player that they think very highly of. Personally, I know that the big name that was flying around on Saturday was Fraser Minton. I don't think he's very good, so like that wouldn't be enough for me. I don't see I don't see why people were losing their minds over Fraser Minton. Like this guy isn't incredible. He's an intriguing bottom sixer. Cool. They got a ton of those already. But if you can get a legitimately intriguing young player who you value as a first round caliber asset, sure. But if they were to go out in a week and a half and trade Scott Laughton for a second round pick, my reaction would be, then why didn't you just do that last year or the year before? Like, if you trade him for something that is of solid value, of a first round pick, a conditional first, something like that, then I could be like, okay, yeah, they held to what they were asking for, and they eventually got a high value asset that probably is an overpay for Scott Laughton. If you ultimately trade him for something that's not an overpay, then it's like, well, then why did you make us wait 2 years just to take that offer?
Exactly. All right. Before we go any further, I got to tell you about our presenting sponsor at Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. I bet our friends at the sportsbook last night were over the moon about the Saquon anytime touchdown not coming into play for them. I found that very funny that the entire world definitely had that. And no such luck. But listen, Bet365, they've been beating me up all year. So maybe if you're taking my pregame bets, just do the opposite. But regardless, I've been placing all of my bets at Bet365 this year, my futures. Maybe you want to get in on birds to repeat. You can do it at Bet365 right now. Maybe you want to bet on some Four Nations coming up. That's going to be a lot of fun. And hey, you don't have skin in the game. A little more fun. Make this tournament by gambling on it. And right now, we have some breaking news from Bet365. New customers now get $100 in bonus bets when you bet just $5, win or lose. All you got to do is sign up, use the code PHLY365, deposit $10, and place a bet for $5 to get $100 in bonus bets, whether your bet wins or loses. Bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older, physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. And while we're here, I got to tell you about our friends at Ace Hardware. That's right, Ace Hardware. If you have a leaky pipe at Ace Hardware Home Services, they're around the block with everything you need to fix it, including the person to do the fixing. Same thing goes for air conditioning issues, as I had a few months ago. The Ace Hardware hooked me up there. You have a faucet you said you were going to get to last fall, but it's still leaking. You're not quite sure. Listen, we always think we can do it ourselves. It's not as easy as the guys on YouTube make it look. Well, Ace Hardware has a person for that too, because now they're not just the helpful hardware folks, they're also the helpful home service and repair folks. From plumbing to heating and cooling, they've got the trusted pros to keep your home humming all year long. Ace Hardware Home Services, they're bringing helpful home, the helpful you love from the store, now to your front door. Visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at acehardwarehomeservices.com to get your next project started today. This is going very well
today.
For me. It's going great. I could definitely talk. Charlie, this Laughton, like, do you think they do it? Like, just what do you see Scott Laughton in another jersey after March 7th? Do you see that happening?
I don't. I think they're going to keep him. I really do. I do. And that was, I think, another reason why I found the Saturday thing very odd, because everybody convinced themselves that he was getting moved. And I'm just kind of sitting there like, I haven't heard anything to tell me that anything is imminent, nor have I heard anything to tell me that they've changed their view of Scott Laughton and their view of his importance in the room and to the team. They just traded away one center. I know that there's the idea, well, they can just tank, and the front, like, players don't tank, but front offices do. And if you just keep pulling pieces away, maybe they will end up with the fourth best lottery odds or whatever. But I don't think they want to just like have Jacob Gaucher as the 2C for the rest of the year. I don't think they're going to trade everyone. I don't think he's going to get moved. I really don't.
That's it's funny. This tanking thing, Charlie. I am endlessly entertained by John Tortorella, whether I agree with him or disagree with him, choices he makes here and there or whatever. He is entertaining as hell. But this, this whole, well, we're not going to, like, everyone wants us to tank, but we're not going to do that. No one is asking the players and coaches to purposefully lose.
Of course not.
Like, this
Everybody
is
knows
creating,
that's insane.
like, this is creating your own narrative as the coach. Like,
Yes.
oh, yeah, you just want us to go out there. No, like, if
Well, some people
no rational person is like, oh, Matvey Michkov should be a quitter. We want a quitter on the team. Like, not a single actual Flyers fan believes that that would be good. What Flyers fans want is Danny Briere to create a situation that makes it very difficult for the Flyers to win with any sort of consistency. Like, yeah, man, we got rid of a bunch of guys. Rasmus Ristolainen, maybe your best defenseman this year. He's gone. Scott Laughton, one of your best bottom six forwards. He's gone. Like, we got rid of Frost and Farabee already. Think of them what you will. It's harder to win without them. Yeah. Like, especially given that they weren't replaced by anybody yet. Kuzmenko played one game, looked real good. I want to talk about him in a second too, but that just drove me nuts. But I have another question about the mindset of this front office. Okay. We know that they're trying to bring back this, the familial, like, when you're here, your family, like Olive Garden, like Steve said on the post game the other night, whether it's Risto and maybe less him, but like Scott Laughton, he's been here forever. One of the leaders of the team. I always laugh thinking back to the when they showed us the video of Coots being named captain. It starts with Torts going, "We all know the ultimate leader is Scott Laughton." Like, okay. Just give him the C then. But like, going back to that, like, they love this guy. Do you think Risto or Laughton, they would trade these dudes while everyone's away and then the team just comes back and it's like, hey man, Scott Laughton don't work here no more? Like, do you think that would be a thing that they would do?
It's a good question. Yeah, I think they would. I do. I think they would be willing to do that if somebody bowled them over with an offer during these 2 weeks. I don't think they are that sentimental. And I think we saw, honestly, proof that they're not that sentimental just, last week when they traded away Joel Farabee and Morgan Frost, two guys who desperately wanted to stay in Philadelphia, who were friends with everybody in the room. Guys are talking about how, like Tyson Forrester's like, Joel Farabee was like my mentor, and Cam York's talking about, the fact that, he's been a guy he looks up to. That was an unsentimental move. And I think that showed for anybody who still believed that Danny Briere and Keith Jones and this new front office, isn't willing to make the tough decisions. I think that showed they are. Now, you might not agree with the decisions they make, but that showed they're not scared to make decisions that are hard to make. For personal reasons, I guess is the way to say it. And if somebody calls up Danny Briere and says, we'll give you a first-round pick and, a B- C+ prospect for Rasmus Ristolainen, and you don't have to retain any salary, if somebody calls up Danny next Monday, I think he does it. I don't think he's worried that, like, oh, the boys might be mad. No, I don't think he's worried about that. I think he says, let's do the deal.
Do you think... I guess, like, it's impossible to know the answer to this, but like, if this team is kind of where they were last year at around this time, they're still sort of in it. And I mean, you look at the points totals and they're still in it, but
I think everybody knows it would take a.
It's only because the East is bad.
It would take a miracle run at this point. Not saying it's impossible, and I get why the players are still saying, no, we have a shot, we can go on a run, because they could. If they win 10 straight games,
they have to go to work.
Sure, but. Look at all of the public models out there that do playoff likelihood. The Flyers are in single digits in terms of playoff percentage likelihood.
Like, if they were in it and like things were going as well as could be expected, I'd almost think it would be more likely for Scott Laughton to be traded, because it's like, oh, the vibes are good. Like,
do you really? Explain.
The way they value him and like keeping the cohesion. It kind of feels like this season is about to like, and
gotcha.
When that, like, you can have the best leadership, you can have the hardest working team. When you lose 8 in a row, things start to sour. Like, that's just what happens. No matter how good, I wonder if they almost
Losing isn't
value.
fun.
Yeah, like losing sucks.
It's not great.
Losing really sucks. Think about like the way this fan base treats itself.
Yeah,
Like people are mad because this team hasn't won in 10 years. Like hasn't even been close to winning in a while.
Yeah.
You know, I almost wonder if they now value Scott Laughton more than they would if it was like kind of going a little better. It's in pot. Like I don't know if it makes any sense, but it's something I've been thinking. I wonder if. Actually, now's not the time. And like I think it is. But I wonder the way they think if that's kind of how they're going to treat it.
It's an interesting line of think. I don't know if I agree with you.
Okay.
But
I don't know if I agree with you.
I think it's an interesting line of thinking. And hey, maybe. I can't say with certainty that's not the case. I just don't personally think that it would matter one way or the other. Now, one thing I will say, I don't think if the Flyers right now were where they were in mid-February of last year, where they were solidly in a playoff spot and they were looking like they were going to make it. They were in third in the Metro and everything was looking good. I don't think Danny Briere in that situation trades Farabee and Frost. I think he might do it. I think he might do it in the offseason.
All right.
But I don't think he would have done it in season if the Flyers were in a playoff run. It would have been the whole thing like, nah, the boys earned the right to stay together. You know what? The boys this year didn't earn the right to stay together. Sorry. They didn't.
No, and that's a fair point. Like you always the Sean Walker thing, like that's its own situation. Yeah. It's a pending UFA.
Sure. His
age, you had to do it kind of regardless. This is, you always want to reward them. Like Calgary just said, like they've exceeded expectations so much that like they took a couple of guys kind of off the block, like no longer on the market. And then sure, it's a move for the future. It's not as if Farabee and Frost are old and both under team control, but you also added some good scoring depth there. Like it's good depth for the team to like. They rewarded the guys for exceeding expectations.
Yeah.
Flyers haven't put themselves in position for Danny Briere to want to do that.
Exactly.
Like that's just kind of the way it is. I am interested in your opinion on Kuzmenko because we haven't had like a ton of opportunities, Charlie, like since the trade to really even talk about it. But one, he played really well. I thought he was one of the best players on the ice for the Flyers in his debut. Still waiting. Jacob Peltier. If he is just here to, I can't imagine a world where they keep him unless it's like, hey, you want to play for $2.5 million? Great. Like, but why not just go back to the KHL or go to the open market at that point? If Kuzmenko comes back, they have these 6 games. And maybe he stays through the end of the year. He's Michkov's buddy. He helps the power play. All that would be great. I think there's a chance they could flip him, though. Like, everyone needs scoring depth. Yeah. The Flyers could retain some salary, and it's only through the end of this year, so it doesn't hurt you at all.
Up to 50%.
Yeah, like
makes that cap hit fairly manageable.
Yeah, everyone needs scoring depth. I know he's maybe not the kind of player everyone's looking to add at the deadline. Like, oh, we need big physical guys for the playoffs. But like, who doesn't need to score more goals? Every team needs to score a little more. You're going to run into Connor McDavid at some point. You could probably use him. Do you think they could flip him? Maybe.
I don't think they will, but it would be a wildly aggressive and intriguing move by Briere to at least explore the possibility. Now, he does have a no-trade list. It's not a full no-trade clause, so there are some teams he wouldn't be able to block a trade to, but there are teams that he would. The Flyers were apparently on his no-trade list, and he approved the deal anyway, so it's not like they could trade him to anybody, at least without his approval. And given the fact that the Flyers apparently convinced him to waive it, it would be a little cutthroat to then flip him, 2 weeks, 3 weeks later. That said, again, we just talked about Danny Briere showing that he can execute moves without sentimentality. It would be cool. It would be a cool cutthroat Vegas Golden Knights style maneuver. And I think that might excite people. I personally don't think he will get moved, but I can't rule out the possibility entirely.
All right, before we wrap up, just got to say we appreciate those of you watching on TV. Head over to allphly.com for more of the show. Now, I do not believe we have any super chats today.
I didn't see any.
All right. Just real quick then on that Kuzmenko thing. Like, while you could look at it like, oh, that's like a cutthroat. What if the convincing was you make a little pit stop here and then we get you back into the playoffs?
That's a fair point.
Like, what if that's the convincing?
Fair point.
Hey, man, yeah. And then when Vegas calls, like, hey, go have fun for a few weeks. Like,
Yeah.
go on a playoff run and maybe earn yourself some. Like, you play well in the playoffs, you get paid.
Yeah. And we
Like,
talked
that's
about
what happens.
we talked about it on the show. Like, one thing about Kuzmenko, look, maybe this is just a fluke. Maybe he's just gotten on hot streaks at the right time, but he's been with 2 NHL teams.
Perfect.
Both of those teams, he started out very strong.
Yes.
Then he falls off a cliff. But hey, if you're trading for a guy that has a knack for starting strong with a new team, it's kind of like the perfect guy to trade for at the deadline if you're trying to make a playoff push.
Yeah, why wouldn't you? Did we ever actually, because I think you asked the question, did we ever get an actual answer as to like what the motivation was to waive the no trade?
I don't think he obviously he knows English. It's not his first language. Yeah. I think he was a little confused. I think the mistake I made with that question was using the word waive. I just don't think he fully understood the word wave, and I sort of had to like get back to it with a follow-up question. And it just more or less seemed like he was trying to get at, well, they're a fun team with a lot of fun players, and I wanted to give it a shot. That, if anything, was the answer he gave. My guess is there was a lot more to it, but he didn't reveal it, partially probably because he didn't fully understand the question, which, fair. English isn't his first language.
Yeah. All right. That is pretty much all the time we have for you today on PHLY Flyers, presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Make sure you're following us right here on YouTube. We have 2 weeks. 2 weeks of just panel shows, like no post game, no nothing. We're on at 4 o'clock every day. Make sure you're following us right here and set that reminder bell so you never miss a live show. Follow us on Twitter at PHLY_Flyers. Follow the podcast as well. Wherever you get those, just search PHLY Flyers. All right, that'll do it for us. I am Bill Matz. That is Charlie O'Connor. Until tomorrow, we are the champions!
We all silly like the mayor.